Hello and a very warm welcome back to Widowed AF. You're here with me, I'm your host Rosie Gilmoss. Now I'm always here, I'm your grief Sherpa, if you will. But joining me today, I've got some guests from another podcast. So the next voices you'll hear will be me and Natalie and Katie from Those Two Widows. So joining me today, I've got a slightly different format. I've got two guests. I have got Katie and Nat from the podcast Those Two Widows. So I'm either committing career suicide here by having essentially a competitor on, or we are creating a network of widowed podcasters, which is much more my preference. Yes. So welcome, both of you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for persevering through my tech issues at the beginning as well. But we made it.
Our tech issues. That's very kind of you.
I just always assume the blame. So who wants to start? Whose idea was it? Who said to the other one, I've got a brilliant idea. Let's talk into a microphone and tell everybody our story.
That's actually really funny that Katie just pointed out, because I was thinking, shit, whose idea was it? I don't know. We're allowed to swear, aren't we?
It's called Widow as Fuck. You're good. You're good.
I'm like, you never know. I think we'd had almost straight after we met, we had a lot of conversations about not being able to find much content that we could relate to. Your podcast was one of the ones we could.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Along with I think one, maybe two others, but there's very little.
There's nothing, is there?
And especially that we specifically could relate to. And so we were like, well, wouldn't it be great if we could do a podcast and it would look like this? And then in all honesty, that exact podcast already existed. With two widows doing the same thing, and they'd done a really good job. But so we left it for a while because we were like, well, maybe the space isn't there for us. And then how do we then end up doing it?
Well, I think it kept being on our minds the whole time, and we kept having chats because, in the first year we were spending a lot of time together and a lot of time debriefing and talking about issues, and we just became really passionate about the subject, didn't we? And just why is there not more information out there? Why is it not more talked about? That people under the age of 50 do die. It does happen. There are young widows out there. That why is this not out there? I don't understand. And essentially, I think it took us a little while to get over the imposter syndrome. Essentially, actually, no one. I think for a while we were like, we think we've got something to say, but actually,
will anybody else
care?
We had these hilarious, quite narcissistic moments of being like, I think we're quite funny. I think
someone to listen to us.
And then it's oh no, we shouldn't do it because if we're funny, then people might think we don't care.
Yeah.
And it's so strange how you kind of feel the need to what's the word? Basically dole down your personality in order to fit in with the mold that people expect of being a widow. We were literally like, fuck that. Actually, let's just try it and see what people think.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because when we started WAF, it was actually me and my best friend, Lucinda. So we, much like you, we'd known each other from pretty early on. We met through Way, and we'd formed a really tight bond. We also thought we were hilarious, right? So let's record ourselves. And it was an iPad on a towel for sound reverb. It was all very, very low tech. And we had an absolute blast. We launched ourselves into this world that neither of us had any knowledge of. And like you, we thought, will anybody listen to this? And I can remember when we got the first 500 downloads, and I was like, oh my God, we're going to be famous. That didn't happen. Also hasn't made me millions. I feel a little duped by this.
I know, that's rude.
It seems to cost
when
me
you said
more.
that, we were like, oh no.
Yeah. But Lou, and after a while, Lou stepped back from it. She found, she's a single mum still. She found it very difficult. So we're still friends. So there was no animosity. And I sort of went off alone. And this imposter syndrome that you're talking about, my God, who do I think I am, to interview people, to tell people stories. But I think that's kind of part of the charm, is that we're not polished journalists. We don't come from broadcasting. No. And that idea that you are having these vulnerable conversations, and they are just that, they're conversations. It's not, I call my interviews, but they're not. I'm not interviewing you. I'm talking to you.
Exactly.
And I think the charm of that is in the sort of, I guess, the roughness of it, for want of a better term.
Yeah, I think that's what we really like about it. The episodes that we've recorded so far are just us sat chatting, just like we would the recording device not been there.
And I think
and I think you can hear that in your podcast as well. You can hear that there's a real friendship dynamic, and I think when you are widowed, the friends you have, you know, some people shine themselves in glory, others don't. But one of the benefits, if I'm tempted to use that word, of being widowed is the friends that you meet, because you meet people whose paths you may never have crossed. And actually, how did you two meet? It's always like a dating thing.
It was widowed and young as well, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, I was pretty obsessive, I would say. Yeah, definitely. With in the first few months, even just needing people who kind of understood what was
I get it,
and kind of would tell me that I was normal. And so I reached out to quite a lot of people. So you can search by the local area. I mean, it was really shocking how many people there were in the local area in the same situation. And
where do you live?
In Surbiton, so it's kind of just outside of London.
Yep.
Should we be revealing where we live? Is that okay? I think that's fine.
I think so. Do you want me to disclose? I think everybody knows where I live. We can edit it out if you change your mind. Don't worry.
Thank you. I just suddenly panicked.
This is because you're going to be famous and millionaires, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You can't have anybody knowing where you live.
Like, she lives in this exact area, so I'm going to spend time and money figuring out exactly which house she lives in. But yeah, so I reached out to quite a few different people, met a few different people. But the first time I met Katie, it was love at first sight.
Yeah, it honestly
was. And
it was so funny. We met outside a coffee shop, and you started walking towards me, and I was like, oh my God, we're wearing the same clothes.
Yeah, we were literally like,
serendipity.
And we just did not shut up that first time we met. We went for this long walk.
Yeah.
And in my head, I was like, not sure if I'm ever going to meet this person again, but take it with a pinch of salt, see how it
hurts a little bit more every time you say that.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't know why she thought she wasn't going to see me
I'm
again.
so sorry. No,
It does seem like a date.
Because my approach was, like, I joined Way, and my plan was not to really engage in any of it. I just knew it was the right thing to do.
Same.
But actually didn't really want to talk to anybody. Who are these weird people that have lost partners? But you were great, because you totally changed my perspective on that, and then just didn't shut up for about 2.5 hours, did we, on this walk together?
And it was just so nice, and like we didn't neither one of us wanted to go home. Like it really was like a great date,
A really, really perfect date.
Like,
yeah,
it was just so nice. And then pretty much immediately we were inseparable.
Yeah,
because obviously we were both so used to having our partners at home, and then suddenly you have all these evenings on your own, and it's the evenings that are kind of really shit, isn't it?
Oh yes.
So Katie, I mean, because Katie doesn't have kids, Katie's is like constantly in my house.
Yeah, it honestly.
Yeah,
there's a route, so it's about a 10-minute walk to my flat from where Nat lives, and that walk for me is such a therapeutic walk now. Even if I walk it now, I'm like, oh, I'm just taking some time for myself. I often like reflect, think about Ollie, think about sort of griefy things that are going around in my head on that walk. It just became this routine that I would walk to yours, we'd have dinner, we'd have some wine, we'd cry, we'd laugh, whatever we needed to do, we'd do it. We just became so quickly so part of each other's lives.
Yeah, massively.
To the point
I'm getting like goosebumps as you talk.
And
I think we underestimate female friendships and the love that you can feel for another human being.
But also to have friendship at an older stage. Like, I think we focus so much about female friendships and the friends that you've had from school and uni, but to make a true best mate in your 30s, I think is really unusual.
And at the worst point in your life, where none of us are showering ourselves in glory, are we? We're not our most likable at that point in our lives.
No, I was my most manic.
Oh yeah, I sometimes struggle to think back to that time period, because I'm like, oh God, what did people think of me at that point?
Same.
I was like constantly out and about, constantly doing something. And a lot of the time that was actually with you, because you were the same.
Yeah.
Really.
And then we should also add that our husbands died within a really short period of time of each other. So we were going through the same phases, as they say, of grief as each other. Or if we weren't, then someone, I would be like, have you had this moment where you're having horrible dreams or whatever? And you'd be like, no. But then next month you'd be like, oh, I finally had the weird dream thing. That's happening now. And it just made it feel really, it normalized everything.
Yeah.
Do you know, I've written down the word normalised, and it's kind of not something we want to normalise, but it ends. You do feel like a freak. You feel like a freak, and things like I would never have anticipated the anger. You know, I was so cross with Ben. I would never anticipated the raging horn. You know, that was unexpected, if I'm honest. But I feel by talking about it, you know, I know that all my friends now, if they get widowed, they know that's coming up the road because they've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Now, let me just find out a little bit about your stories. Does one of you want to go first, or shall I pick?
Shall I go? Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. You volunteered. Well done.
And
that's Katie from the listeners.
I'll go first.
So, Katie, tell me. As I said to you before we came on mic, I know very little about your story, other than your husband was called Ollie, and that he died very suddenly. Yeah. So, I guess, why don't you just tell me as much or as little as you want to? Tell me how you met. Tell me what happened. I mean, were you prepared for this? Were you braced?
Yeah, the answer is no, not prepared at all. So
I meant the question, not the death. Sorry.
Oh. Prepared for the question always. I feel like as a widow, I feel like I've now got the spiel done.
You know, when you're pregnant, and actually I'm directing this at Natalie, you have, like, people want to know how many weeks are you? Do you know if it's a boy or a girl? Are you, you know, and you almost want like a little placard, don't you, that says, don't know the gender. Yes, I know I'm enormous. But anyway, I digress. Right, sorry, Katie.
But it is very like that. So Ollie and I met at school. So we were friends, we were mates from the age of 16, and then got together when we were 18, got married quite young, actually. We were 25 when we got married. And then Ollie died at the age of 31 of a condition called SADS, which is either sudden adult death syndrome or sudden arrhythmic death syndrome. And it's essentially like adult cot death. So someone's heart just stops. And I didn't know anything about this condition. I'd never heard of it. I guess the closest I'd ever heard of it of things like watching Grey's Anatomy or some ridiculous hospital drama where you think that can't possibly happen. There was no lead up to that. How could that happen? But it did exactly happen like that. And Ollie was a young, fit guy, definitely healthier than me, exercised, just had a very good life-work balance. And then he just one day died, and that's it. And it's just, even saying it to you today is just still so shocking that it's even happened, because there was no warning, there was no sign, and there was nothing that could be done. He was here and then died.
And I mean, I will ask some difficult questions, and you can obviously tell me to my main business. But whereabouts was he when it happened?
So he died in our home, which has been a real journey for me to kind of process that. Because on one level, I feel quite pleased that if he had to die, he died in our home, because it was his safe space. He had a really busy, demanding job and a busy life. And he'd always say to me, anytime he was coming home, he was like, I can just finally be myself, rest, like recharge. So actually, for him, I think if he could have had a choice, he probably would have wanted to die there.
Yeah.
The bit that's hard about it is the fact that I wasn't there, and nobody was there when he died. He was found at home. And that's a bit of a mind fuck, because...
And also not by you.
And not by me, He was found by my father-in-law, who weirdly was staying with us that week. Didn't normally stay with us, just had some work in London and was staying with us. So again, a really weird set of circumstances where, I find out that my husband's died through someone else, but they're in our home. And so it's been a majorly, like, traumatic event in my life, obviously, but it's almost coming to terms with the loss of control. I think that's been the main thing in my widow journey, is that I didn't see this coming. I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't save him. And I think an important factor to my story is that I'm a nurse by background. So you talked about the anger earlier. I was incredibly angry at myself in the first year, being like, I don't understand how I couldn't see this. Like, I lay next to this man every night, and how did I not know that his heart was going to stop?
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, eh?
Yeah, exactly. And
I think the important thing to note there is you could never have known.
I could never have known, exactly.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, but I have to find a way. I'm a nurse. I should have. Where were the signs? Where were the symptoms? And I was there going, oh, well, he did say he had a bit of a stomach cramp 6 months ago. That's the start of it. You try and find those patterns to make sense of something that is nonsensical.
So were you out at work or something? I mean, did this happen in the day? And
no, well, this is the other thing. I don't actually know. I will never really know. I have a rough window of time that I think he died. They said that he died. The post-mortem report said that he died between the hours of 4 in the afternoon and 7 at night.
So were you concerned about him? Would you try to reach him at any point, or was it quite normal to not be in contact?
So I'll be honest with you, I'd had a really crazy day at work. It's very typical for me that I wouldn't have messaged him because I'm on at work thinking about other people. And then I was driving on my way because we played netball together. We were in a mixed netball team. I messaged him and I was like,
cute is that?
That's really cute.
yeah, we were a little bit sickening sometimes. Reflect on that. But yeah, so I'd messaged him and gone, oh shit, I'm really late for netball. Just please apologise to the team. I'll see you there. Didn't even think about it because I was just really, really late. And then rang me on my way to the station to get to my match and was like, hey, Ollie never met me to pick up the keys so I could get into your flat. Do you mind dropping them off? And I just thought, oh, idiot. He's just, what is he like? And so I literally drove to my flat, threw the keys out the window.
Oh gosh.
Then got on the train and then I found out Ollie collapsed at our home.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
And then because it's an unexpected death, it's the next level of stuff that comes with that. So, you know, we had to have the police round, the ambulance round, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And even just, you know, not knowing his cause of death, because I didn't know his cause of death for, I think it was about 2.5 months.
Oh my God.
And I had no idea why he died. They had the initial post-mortem. And then they basically were like, we think it's this SADS, which is essentially like a group condition. It's a bit like COPD, I guess.
Yeah.
Like there are different diseases within COPD of what people die of. But that, I guess that's the same as SADS. And then moving on, like a year on, I consented for Ollie's DNA to be tested to see if I could find out a specific cardiac condition to which he died of. And there is nothing.
It's so just a random...
It's a random event. They know it was genetic. It wasn't to do with his actual heart, the muscle. There wasn't a hole. There wasn't any impairment with the actual organ. And they even tested the conductivity and there was nothing there. It was just an arrhythmia. But what caused it, we will never know. And that, I think that's the next stage of my grieving, is that I will never be able to know exactly what killed him.
I'm with you on that one.
Which is awful.
And it's a horrible word, but this word closure. And when you have a very sudden, any death is horrible and traumatic, but when your life changes literally in that split second, you need answers. You're desperate for answers. And to have to wait that long with not knowing, I don't know how much you know about my situation, but my husband's body's not been found. So I'm 7 years next month, and I'm only just starting to process that, this idea that I will probably never know. And I think it and also the idea that you can just die in your sleep with no warning, right? That is fucking terrifying.
It's so scary.
So you must have been scared afterwards. I mean, I'm thinking PTSD.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a weird one. I very much dismissed my trauma for a long time because I wasn't there when he died, was my logic. So I was like, well,
So you sort of felt you weren't worthy of it.
I can't have PTSD because I wasn't there when he died. I didn't witness anything. So therefore it's not trauma. I'm just really sad. It's amazing what the brain does to you. It's really unkind. It's really unkind. But then I would be having these symptoms, which I now know are trauma related, things like getting on public transport. So I found out Ollie died on a train. So obviously, anytime I got on a train, I started shaking and sweating, and I'd make excuses up for myself. I'd be like, "Oh, you just ran quite quickly to the train, or it's just a bit hot. You've got too many layers on." No, it's trauma, and so I've had to go through that journey of trying to work out, what are the triggers? What are my triggers? Because they're unseen triggers, and that kind of makes it harder because I can't pinpoint exactly.
Yeah.
Things like ambulances, we talked about this on our podcast,
Yeah.
that if I see a stationary ambulance, that really sets me off. Whereas you, from your story, moving ambulances really get you. Moving ambulance doesn't bother me at all.
Because probably there's somebody alive in that ambulance, right?
Exactly.
That's why they're moving.
They need to get through. They need to get through.
Yeah.
Someone in a stationary ambulance, something awful has happened.
For me, it's anything with a door knock with the police. If you're watching a drama or something, and if the police came to our house, they were looking for security footage. There'd been a car clipped down our road, and just seeing them come to I didn't see them come to the door. It was the reflection through, and it's that the visceral shake because horrible.
And even things like for ages answering the phone. It sounds really silly, but like
it doesn't actually.
Answering the phone to people was terrifying to me, and hearing people's voices on the other end.
Because what are they going to say?
What are they going to say to me?
Mm.
Voicemails. Don't.
Not being able to get hold of people, that's a big one for me. If people don't answer the phone, they're dead. I mean, there is no, my mum and dad, if they're late getting to me, they've died in a car crash. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, I was on holiday with my family.
I'm laughing, but like
it's true.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. I was on holiday with my family last year, and my brother is notoriously late all the time for things, but every time he was late for breakfast, I was like, "Oh, he's died.
He's died in his sleep." Yeah, and you're so like,
"Don't worry, I'll go and sort that out. Don't worry." Like, it's awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's just what your brain does to protect you. It's like cushioning you.
Have you had? I always get the letters wrong. Is EMDR?
Yeah, I have.
You had that?
Yeah, I have, and it's been amazing. And I
want to have it. I've just not found the right person. I think I'm going to have to do it online, which I was a bit nervous of. But I know a couple of people that have done it online.
Well, I can definitely send you the person that I've been seeing.
Please do.
Honestly,
yeah, please do.
And what amazes me about EMDR is that actually a lot of this stems back from your childhood. There are things that you've felt your whole life, but you've been able to mask. And then when grief happens and trauma on top of it, you can't hide from it anymore. And then you have to process that. And honestly, just things like I've noticed I'm not visibly shaking anymore. My fatigue levels are better. My sort of stress, fight and flight response is so much better. And
I definitely need to look into. I'm doing this vagus nerve stimulation at the moment, which is meant to help with the same thing, because it's just managing those thoughts. But much like I went to therapy 3 years ago, decided it was finally time. I now don't drink alcohol. I've been diagnosed with autism and ADHD. You take that mask down to grieve, and it's kind of terrifying what else pops up, right?
Yeah, completely. And I think that's again why our friendship has been so important, because I can be so vulnerable with you and be like, I want to be the old Katie. I want to be that person again, and I can't do it. And I'm angry at myself that I can't do it. And I'm disappointed that I can't. I feel like I'm letting people down. I'm a notorious people pleaser.
Yeah.
So this whole process of, hey friend, the same. So I find it really difficult that I'm letting people down all the time because of my grief. That's how it used to feel. Whereas now I'm like, no, actually you have to put yourself first, because actually if you don't build a reserve for yourself, you have nothing.
No, and you have to. It's like the kids' book, isn't it? Grief is something you can't avoid. I drank heavily. I did lots and lots of unhealthy coping mechanisms, one of which was just being really, really busy. And it caught me. It caught me probably about 2 years ago, I reckon. Probably about the time I did this, so great timing. But perhaps this was a catalyst. Perhaps talking to other people made me realise that I hadn't even scratched the surface yet. And that made me feel almost like an imposter, because I thought, if I'm still in the weeds of it, who am I to talk to people about it? But I think it's important that we understand that I really hate this expression, but it's not linear. That you can think, I've done all this work for 2 years, but actually, there's a lot going on still underneath there.
Yeah, 100%. It's always a work in progress, isn't it?
Even as you're saying that, though, Rosie, I'm literally thinking like, oh no, but that's me now. I haven't done. As Katie's talking, I'm thinking I haven't done any of that work. I haven't
Buckle in.
I feel like you've done a lot of proactive work.
Yeah, but that's because I'm a notorious people pleaser. It's not always healthy. It's I've got to be the best griever.
Oh yeah,
I've got to do everything. It doesn't matter if I succeed, but I have to try hard.
And I really wanted to get through those stupid stages really quickly. I was like, oh, I'm done. Like I've accepted it. I'm done.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, this is it.
Now, Natalie, your story. So I feel I didn't give you full airtime on that, Katie. I'd like to come back, but I want to make sure we cover everything. Natalie, your story is different. Your husband died from cancer, and you're also a mum. You've got kids.
Yeah.
And I think often when I first started doing this, actually, I'm just going to go off on a little mini tangent here. I'll come back round. I thought it was going to be the people who'd lost their partner and they had children. That was going to be the biggest one, because I think, and I'm sort of talking to you, Katie, here as well, because sometimes we say, well, at least you didn't have kids. And I think we really underestimate sometimes the loss of, you were with your husband since you knew him since you were 16. That's a lifetime. And kids, whilst they are an enormous blessing, it's very difficult to grieve when you're responsible for small humans. So, Natalie, after I've come back from my little tangent over here, tell me about Steve. Tell me how you met. Tell me what happened, and in your own time.
Yeah. So we met on our placement year at uni. So we both went and worked for the same big pharmaceutical company. So we met there, were absolutely obsessed with each other to the extent I annoyed my friends. I think I am that girl that gets obsessed with my boyfriend. I know I'm that girl. I don't know why I said I think. And so, we very quickly went into a relationship and then carried on that through uni. So he went back to Bristol. I was in Leeds. And then we moved down to London together. And we honestly, I always feel like a dick saying this, but our lives were basically perfect. Like they were great. Like everything, like we went on really nice holidays, like we got the jobs we wanted, like we worked hard, and then we were very much kind of like, both of us were very like ambitious and we wanted to do really well at work. And so we worked hard, and then we also played hard, and we had a lot of fun. He was hilarious, like absolutely hilarious, in a very unique way, and I feel like people who know him will understand it when I say that. And so we had massively fast forwarding here, but we got married in 2017, and then we had our daughter in 2020, smack bang in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, I was just thinking
which was actually really nice because it meant that Steve was at home all the time.
And you just got to like bubble with your baby.
Exactly. I mean, I'm sure, to be honest, sometimes he resented the fact he was at home, because like he'd be in the middle of a meeting and I'd be like, I have to shower. But it was really nice. Obviously it was difficult that we couldn't see family, but that didn't last too long at that point. So very happy, kind of little family. And then our son was born in 2022. But that was it was smack bang in the middle of the worst year. So New Year's Eve 21, is that right? Yeah. Yes, I always get the years wrong.
I won't check.
Yeah, New Year's Eve 21. Steve felt like a bit unwell. I'm going to speed this up in a minute because it's quite a long story.
No, don't. We've got plenty of time. Don't.
No, but I feel like I always go on like a massive monologue.
Remember who you're talking to here.
I know. But like,
it's because your story is so short.
Yeah, because that is just how it happens. So he's feeling a bit unwell on New Year's Eve, and we ended up going into like can't really call them, like not an A&E, but like a walk-in centre. Yeah, like a walk-in centre. And they were like, oh, it might be like IBS. We were like, oh, okay, like that'd be weird and that'd be really annoying if he's got IBS, but okay. But they thought it was more likely like a stomach bug. Anyway, it didn't go away, and he carried on. My voice is doing that weird thing again. Can you hear it? I have a different voice when I talk about it.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
My friend yesterday on the way back from the cinema asked me a weird question it was about finding Ben's body.
Yeah.
And as I spoke, I said, who is that?
Yeah.
Like, it's like a little rehearsed script almost, isn't it? You go into.
Rehearsed, and it's also like that. It
Something
sounds so
happens
weird.
to your
Something
throat.
happens to my throat, and my voice sounds
Close off a bit. I mean, I couldn't tell at all. So to the
it's really
casual
weird.
observer, you can't
My
tell.
best friends have noticed it as well. And I'm like, oh God, stop doing it. Anyway, so we had lots of tests through different hospitals. Like we ended up going private because we were like, we're not getting the answers we wanted. And he had pretty much every test in the sun, and all the scary ones, i.e. cancer, came back clear. And we were like, okay, well, that's good. So what the hell could it be? And we carried on not getting answers, and he carried on getting like his symptoms, which were kind of like bloating in like just in it. Well, we thought his stomach, bloating in his stomach, and he was getting a bit of pain. I now actually can't remember where that pain was or anything like that. I think it may be in his back. And we eventually got referred to is it gastroenterologist? Can you say the word?
Gastroenterologist.
Specialist.
Thank you. Always good to have a medical professional on the show.
I should have just said GI. I should have said GI.
Or gastric. I would have taken gastric.
But he was at the Marsden. And I think most people know that the Marsden is a cancer hospital. And so obviously we were like, internally, fuck. Like both of us, I think Steve was like, why do you think they're sending me there? And I was like, babe, it's just to rule it out. Like, let's just rule it out at this stage, and then we can figure out what it actually is. Like, and he's obviously a GI specialist, so like, if there's anything going on with your stomach, he's probably going to figure it out. And did I believe that? I didn't think it was cancer.
And the brain is very clever, isn't it? If there's another option that you can believe, then you will.
Go for the other one. Yeah, absolutely. And so by the time we actually went for that appointment, he was really unwell. And I mean that in the sense of really unwell that when we didn't know he had cancer yet. So it was still just weird. And like, it wasn't like really, really extreme. It was just like he felt very unwell. And then on the way to the hospital, he actually like threw up a few times quite dramatically. And I think at that point we were both, well, terrified, like really scared. Like, what the fuck? Like, he said to me, like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I was like, I don't know, but let's just get you there. And then he threw up quite a few more times during the appointment, which was actually, as I've said quite a few times, I think it's weirdly helpful.
I was just thinking that,
the specialist actually saw how bad he was. And he was like, right, well, you're clearly not well. We need to figure this out for you. We need to get fluids into you. And so I had to leave him at hospital. And that was awful because it was during COVID. So I'm pregnant at this point.
I was going to ask, were you pregnant? And you've got a small child as well. And have you got support at this point? Yeah,
we had a lot of support. So she was already at nursery anyway. And when she wasn't at nursery, other family members just kind of stepped in to help. Again, at that point, not knowing what was actually going on, but we're like, we need to get this sorted out. And so I had to leave him at hospital, which was awful, but I was also really relieved. I was like, okay, good, he's being looked after by someone. Maybe we're actually going to figure this out. And I think at that point they thought it could be lymphoma. And so obviously, like, I'm dramatically Googling lymphoma, like life expectancy, like can you like all that kind of thing. So that's what the specialist thought. The specialist thought most likely lymphoma. And then we had just the shock of our fucking lives, obviously, when we got told that it was actually stage 4 bowel cancer.
Oh, God.
It went straight in with the stage 4, which was obviously the worst possible news you can get.
Oh, my God.
Were you there?
No,
I wasn't there when he was told.
So they promised that I would be there when the consultant came around and kind of gave an update. And I don't think we were expecting a diagnosis. And Steve called me and was like, the consultant's here now. And they want you to be on the phone as well. And I was like, okay. And I was kind of thinking, well, it can't be that bad because they wouldn't just have me on the phone. And it was 10 times worse than we could have imagined. I literally had my daughter like playing in front of me. I literally like chucked a box of snacks at her, like thinking, just entertain yourself for a minute, because this is like really important. And the snacks were all over the floor. And as soon as I said it, I was just like, I'm coming now. I literally shoved her in the car, and I called Steve's sister and was like, you have to meet us at the hospital and you have to take Elodie. Like you need to do that. And I didn't tell her what happened, because Steve wanted to. So it was absolutely horrendous, obviously. And then he went straight into chemo for 6 months, and a bit of radiotherapy. And that worked really, really well.
So at this point, sorry to interrupt. So stage 4 is.
I don't like just talking.
No. I don't like to interrupt, because I like to get the flow. But at this point, so stage 4 cancer, I mean, that's about as bad as it gets. But he's young. How old was he at the time?
So he's 34.
So he's a young man. Are you? I'm just trying to kind of get into your head now of where you were at this point. Are you thinking this is a life sentence? This is terminal, or are you thinking there could be a way out of this?
I didn't let myself Google it.
Right.
I was pretty. I've worked in healthcare before, as in not as a nurse or a doctor, but kind of in pharmaceutical industry. So I knew what stage 4 meant. I knew that it couldn't be cured, and they explained that to us. So they were like, so the treatment is going to be about prolonging your life rather than curing it. And we were both immediately like, yeah, but he's so young. And like, so Steve did actually say, how long do you think? And he was like, are you sure you want to know? Yeah, I know, awful. And Steve was like, well, are you happy to know? And I was thinking, fuck no, but okay, let's do this then. And they said 3 to 5 years. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, cool. So someone just literally threw a bomb at our lives. Like, what the fuck? And I definitely didn't take it in. I couldn't cry. I literally didn't cry. I remember when Steve told his sister, they were like crying and hugging, and I was just sat there going, guys, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me.
But isn't that interesting that you were apologizing for the reaction that you had, because it wasn't the reaction other people expect? And that is such a kind of analogy for widowhood. We find ourselves constantly apologizing for not behaving in the way we're expected to.
Yeah, but I must judge myself as well.
And that's how we bonded as well, about like, why are we not behaving like everybody else thinks we should be behaving? Yeah. And that probably started for you right then. I hadn't even thought about that ever before, Nat, but actually not with the widow kind of hat on, but I'm a different person from this moment, from the date Steve was diagnosed. Yeah. Everything changed.
Yeah. Well, you said earlier that you really miss the old version of you, but it's harsh, but they're gone, aren't they? Like that, they've gone, and it's learning to embrace is a bit far, but to accept the new version and figure out how we work. Yeah. So 3 to 5 years, when you've got, how old was your daughter?
She was 2.5.
So you've got a 2.5-year-old and a baby on the way. Now, I can, and I will relate to my story because it's kind of the only way I can connect, but my daughter was 6 months when Ben died, my youngest. And weirdly, it was things like, who's going to walk her down the aisle? And I'm wondering if at this point you're thinking, well, God, 3 to 5 years, she won't even have started school yet. Were you allowing yourself to think this? I'm trying to get in your mind.
Yeah, I think I've said this before. I would not think about it any of the time, because I was like, right, let's just get him sorted on this treatment, and then that's going to blast the cancer, and actually he's going to be this success story.
He's going to be the miracle man. Yeah.
I was following Bowel Babe quite obsessively at that point, and I was like, well, she's lasted 5 years, and I was like, and Steve was probably healthier than her, so he's probably going to do longer than that. But yeah, I did have those moments in the shower always, for some reason.
Car for me.
I was like, so what? Is he gonna get only like 3 years with our son, who's yet to be born, and he will just see Elodie start school. And when it actually came to, and that was horrifying. And I thought the same thing. Like, she's not going to have her dad to walk her down the aisle. I'm not going to have that partner to help me raise these children. And I was thinking, what the fuck? How do I do this by myself? No idea. But actually, as it turns out, we had way less time.
How long did you get?
10 months.
Fuck.
Yeah, it was really, really aggressive. So
And
you had
it's
the
my
V gene, which basically is a very evil gene.
so was that the BRCA gene, did you say?
BRAF.
Because John, who's the producer of the show and also my life husband, his first wife died from bowel cancer.
Oh, really?
And she had the genetic mutation, and so did her dad. So yeah, it's and it took her quite quickly as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all brutal, but
I remember that when I was saying, so our consultant was very, very he's a strange one. You actually know who I'm talking about. But he's a strange one in that, like, he delivers horrible, devastating news in quite a jovial way.
oh, Jesus.
And I was weirdly grateful of it, because I was like, well, he's not doing this whole doom and gloom thing. Like, he's telling you horrible news, but he's not. And for a while, I hated him for it. But then I was like, actually, what would I prefer here?
Head tilt.
Exactly. I don't really know what I want. And so I said quite a lot of times, like, he's young, he's fit, he's healthy, like, surely he's going to have better odds than these statistics you're sharing with us. And he'd be like, well, actually, young people tend to do worse with bowel cancer. And we were like, oh, cool.
Oh, good.
Thanks. But we definitely hung on to that hope for quite a long time. Well, the whole time. Absolutely the whole time. Because the 6 months of chemo basically eradicated any active cancer in his body. Which is,
so you must have been thinking, brilliant.
Yeah. And we were thinking, okay, that's time. That is time we've got now with him being normal. And I mean normal, like he was like cancer-free Steve again.
So what did you do? Did you do holidays and things?
Yeah, we were fucking insane. And we we took a 3-week-old and a 2.5-year-old on a flight to America to go and visit my brother over there.
Amazing.
It was such a good holiday. It was amazing. And like, we went to the lakes. We did lots of like UK trips as well. So yeah, Steve literally finished his chemo. I think it was 2 weeks, maybe a week before Leo was born. Because he still had some of the sickness when I was in labour. Because I remember I sent him to bed and was like,
rude of him.
To bed. I know. I was like, this is my turn. But yeah, it was. I mean, I had obviously a lot of fears along the way. Whether was he going to be able to be at the birth? Which, in hindsight, was really fucking cruel, because I also had the same thing with Elodie. Is he going to be able to be at the birth because of COVID?
Because of COVID, yeah.
And he was at both births. And he was an amazing birth partner as well, which is just, I'm so glad that he was there for both births.
Would he talk about the possibility of him dying? Because I know some people, even when they've been given a terminal diagnosis, they don't want to face that mortality, the fact that it could happen, whereas others become very organised, make videos, folders. Where did he land?
No, we didn't talk about it. So we flat out refused to use the word terminal. If anyone used it, it made us really angry. If anyone insinuated that he was going to die, it made us very angry. We were, yeah, it wasn't even so much like it's fighting against it. It's literally just refusing to believe it, because how is this happening, and why? So yeah, he referred to it a few times, like literally maybe twice the whole time. Like, he was like, I think he said once, like, I don't want to die. And I was like, well, of course you don't. And I was like, you're not going to. And that was me, like, I guess, telling myself that's what
I was going to say, trying to convince yourself as much as him.
I think obviously we both knew that was going to happen. Like, and I was actually thinking about this last night when I was thinking about today. I was thinking, imagine, like, obviously we all know we're going to die, but imagine being told you are going to die in this time frame and this is how you're going to die.
I know.
It's just absolutely horrific.
It's why when we talk, I mean, John and I, we over the years, we've talked a lot about, which is worse. It's, this conversation all the time, right? Which is worse? And I don't think there is a worse, but I do know that watching Ben deteriorate and suffer would have broken me. And I would have liked to be able to say goodbye. That to me is something I really struggle with, but that would have benefited me, not him. Whereas the thought of him suffering. Now, as you've mentioned, things did progress much quicker than you were expecting. So at what point did you realise that this wasn't going to be the kind of more positive outcome that you had hoped for?
He started to get unwell again in October time, so they did an opt to take out the primary cancer, which we were like, yeah, get it out. Like, we don't want it there anymore. And we had no qualms at all with him doing that. But then after the operation, he just kept getting high temperatures and had to keep going back into hospital. And like they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. And they were like, it's obviously an infection. And they literally gave him every antibiotic under the sun, and nothing was working. We were like, what is going on? And we just weren't getting answers. We really weren't getting any answers. And he was getting breathless. So we knew he was unwell again, and we were both clearly, I mean, I definitely was. I will never know if it's what he was thinking. I was thinking, oh God, is it the cancer? Like, is it back? But I just kept shutting that thought down and being like, no, it's an infection. They're going to figure it out, and he's going to get better, and then he's going to start this new treatment. And then...
I'm sorry, was he in hospital at this point, or was he at home?
In and out constantly.
In and out.
Yeah.
And that must have been very difficult, because by then your baby would have been around as well.
Yeah, and like I would constantly be going to the hospital with Leo just strapped to my chest. But weirdly, it became our normal. Like that's just what we did. And we always just kind of had family around. I can't remember whether they were staying with us at that point. I think they probably were, because it was so unpredictable in terms of when we need to go in. And then it got to a point where he'd been in critical care anyway, because you go into critical care after the operation. And then he finally came home. Like, he didn't get to come home for his birthday, which I'm so sad about, because it was his last birthday. And then he finally came home. So I don't know, around the end of October. And then again, lots of breathlessness, temperatures, which sometimes we tried to ignore. Because we're just like, no, we don't want you to go back.
Go back in again.
So, and I always had to be the bad guy. I always had to be the person saying, no, look, we have to go. Like, we have to go. Like, there's nothing we can do. And then, eventually he was admitted to Sutton, Marsden. I say eventually, though, he's admitted lots of times. And then they transferred him to Chelsea, and he was in critical care. And that's when I knew it was really bad, because they didn't have the facilities available in Sutton to look after him.
Right.
That blew my mind. I was like, this is a fucking big hospital. Like, how do they not have enough oxygen to give him? Like, it's, and that sounds like a very silly way of putting it, but it was literally...
No, but it doesn't, because you'll be trying to rationalise and the frustrations and why can't he be treated there? And gosh, that must have been so scary.
It was terrifying. And like, it was like this massive team of people getting him ready to go in an ambulance, in the bed with the oxygen. And then we were following him to Chelsea. And I knew it was bad. I definitely knew it was bad. I traveled with his sister, and I was just thinking, like, he's going to die. Like, it's, I allowed myself to think it, I think.
Yeah.
But then as soon as I got there, I was like, no, he's not. No, he's
that little
back. Yeah, I went straight back to it. And then they started him on the new treatment. I can't remember whether they already started it or not. And he'd get like stable for a bit. And like he was talking like perfectly like kind of himself, I suppose, to an extent. Like very with it. And then it kept having to increase the pain medication and kind of the oxygen levels. And it was constantly going up and down. And then eventually they told us that the treatment wasn't working. And basically, once that treatment's not working, because of the BRAF gene he had, there are no more options. So they'd say you can either go back onto the first treatment, and they were very honest and said would probably kill him quicker.
Oh God.
Yeah, that was fucking awful, obviously. And then they said, or we can just stop treatment. And so I still feel angry about that, because they were presented as options, and they're not fucking options. Like, it was like die this way or die this way, basically. So yeah, I do still feel quite angry about the way that was positioned to us. And there were so many people in the room, which blows my mind. Like, literally, I'm talking 10, 12 people.
What, they all came in to deliver the news. Do you know what? John has talked about this, the sort of, you know, the doctor and his sort of like the welcoming party or the...
And as someone who does that job, it is the most weird thing to be on that other side of it. It's like this sort of
Do you feel to do that?
Yeah, I do it all the
Can you please feed back?
So the
there
other
doesn't need to be that many people in the room.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah,
so
it's
the
just
other
like...
thing that links us is that I actually work at the Marsden. So
Stop it.
Weird
Pure
world.
coincidence.
That
because obviously you'd never met before.
We've never met.
And I suppose you wouldn't know necessarily if you treated Steve over the, because you must see so many people.
Not
No,
because of my
no.
speciality.
Okay.
I've looked after.
I was going to say that would be really weird, wouldn't it?
It's this almost weird sliding doors moment in our lives where we were both
Probably,
here with our
yeah.
partners, living in the same area, going to the same pubs, doing the same sort of stuff as couples do, and then also probably past each other in the canteen.
Yeah.
Or
so
in the
weird.
corridor. So it's weird.
It's very likely.
So, you know, from the other side, hearing your husband's story and Nat's story and so many other widows and widowers who I've met, I find it really hard. And that scenario, I hate it. And actually now I really advocate it, that actually who needs to be in that room? Yes, some people do need to be in that room because they need to be there, but not people for learning purposes, not people to write down. Other people can make their own notes if it's a practicality point of view. But there's this old school of thought in medicine, and I think that is changing, where traditionally they like the consultant and then everybody else supporting the consultant, whereas us in the younger generation, we don't want that. We don't want we don't want to meet with someone that we've met once during our care path.
No, you want the humanity
there, holding our hand, helping us, you know, through the worst times of our life. Those are the people that should be having those horrible conversations. So it is changing, but it's horrible.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, that like the way that they told us, it doesn't really matter, like, because the news was the news. So the treatment wasn't working, and we again asked for a timescale. And they told us, so this was, sorry, to give context, this was mid-December, so I think it was like the 14th, 15th of December, and they told us they think we've probably got Christmas, New Year, January, and they weren't sure about February. And so we were like, obviously, like, it was absolutely horrendous, and it was like, where does he want to be? But then actually we got told, and this is interesting based on what Katie said, they were like, we're really sorry, but you can't go home because we can't give you the oxygen that we're giving you here at home.
So you had another choice taken away from you.
But to be honest, I did not want him to die at home, and I think he knew that, and I think he didn't want to die at home either. He'd become, I guess, grimly accustomed to being in that hospital room, those nurses, like, he was very used to it. And it's I think it's a real sadly cancer patient thing that they like their routine.
And I think there's also maybe an element of not wanting to put that pressure on you, and, you know, not exposing the kids to, you know, some people feel this desperate pull to be at home, but others kind of want to shield their family from what they'll have to do, because you do shift when somebody's dying of terminal illness. You shift from being wife and lover to being a form of carer. And I think sometimes if you can preserve that at the end, it gives you both the opportunity to be a couple.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, because how I thought I would hate being back at home after he died. But actually I loved it. I was like, it's our comfortable space. I had it in my head, and I will never know, that if he died at home, I wouldn't be able to be here. But having heard Katie's experience, I mean, I just don't know. I don't know how I would have felt, but he actually died in the place that he wanted to die. I haven't even told you he died. But
I assumed.
So we basically got, like, asked, did we want to move him to this ward, which is effectively where you go to die, which is unbelievably depressing. And I was thinking, fuck no, can we just stay here, please? Like, we literally had, like, all of our stuff, like, we'd brought in TV, like, there was we had everything there. But when it came down to it, we didn't need to make that decision, because so they told us that long, and he died 3 days later.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, which, with hindsight, I wish we obviously had the time to have those final conversations, because we didn't have those. And I wish, more than anything, I wish he had the time to like write the letters, like what you talked about before, do video messages, do something for the kids. So we didn't have that time. But do I wish that he had suffered longer? Absolutely not. And when they told us how long they thought we had, I was like, oh my God, like this is going to be horrendous for that much longer. And the end result is still going to be the same.
And it's something that, again, people don't talk about, is a sense of relief, because not relief that somebody's died. That's not it at all. It's a sense of relief that they're not in pain, that they're not suffering, that they're not, writhing in agony or out of their head on pain medication. That's the relief. It's not that they've gone. And I think so many widows feel shame about that, when actually that's humanity. You're empathizing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I find it very helpful now, and always have since I've known Katie, that she is a cancer nurse. I'm just going to massively downplay your title there, but she's a cancer nurse, because she knows what it's like when people are really unwell and then when they're dying. And actually, even in the first few times I met Katie, I referred to Steve being very kind of controlling over the way his bed was and things like that. And it was very meticulous about exactly what time we had to do things and how we had to do them and how his pillows had to be in. And Katie was like, that wasn't Steve, right? That was the disease. And I was like, no.
Yeah,
and that's interesting, because as you were talking, I was thinking, oh, perhaps that was his way of retaining some degree of control over the situation.
Exactly.
It
and
is,
that is, but that's only happening because they have nothing else. And their world gets so small. That was not Steve's personality. That was his trying to get by and trying to get through this. And
and it's so
common. And I've heard people who've had their person has said terrible things to them when they've been dying, things that they didn't mean, or they hope they didn't mean, because they were taking such heavy pain medication and they were in so much pain, and it almost steals the person before they've gone, right? This horrible last bit. So I'm so sorry, but I'm pure nosiness. I need to know. So what actually happened then? This 3 days later.
So he basically his liver his liver function was kind of going down, and that meant that then he couldn't have the new treatment anyway. So this must have been before they told us it wasn't working. So that had been kind of, everything was gradually getting a little bit worse, but not dramatically by any means. Like his oxygen levels were kind of staying the same, all that kind of thing. We actually thought that he seemed a bit more stable. And we kind of got on top of all his medications. His pain was under control, that kind of thing. And then he just crashed one day. So we had him in the chair. That makes him sound awful. No, he went into the chair. And my daughter was going to visit. Our daughter. I don't like it when I do that. Was going to visit, and it was a real ordeal getting him ready for the kids coming in, because he felt very anxious about it. Like, would he be okay while they were there? They'd see him looking unwell, blah blah blah. And it was there was a lot of back and forth that day. Like, my parents bring them in, where they're not going to bring them in, blah blah. And in the end we decided just my daughter was going to come in, and so she came in for a bit, and Steve was in the chair and he'd fallen asleep. And obviously, I think most people know that when people are getting closer to the end, they're much more sleepy. But I genuinely was like, he's on a lot of drugs, and he generally was getting sleepy when he was having them. So I was like, I didn't really think much of it. And so she was there, and he was very sleepy, and so we just kind of played on the bed with her and stuff. And like, it was. I mean, it wasn't awful. It was fine. And then we noticed that he'd been asleep for a while, and he was quite sweaty. So this is very specific now. So I went and got one of the nurses, and they came in, and basically he'd crashed. So they pressed the crash button, and like everyone comes running in, and that might be my trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly don't know, because I don't think about it very much. I think I block it out. But yeah, that was quite traumatic, and they moved him to the bed, and I think me and his sister both thought, like, is this him dying? And it wasn't. He just crashed, which basically meant his blood pressure crashed very dramatically. And then the doctor came in and said, he has crashed. He's likely to crash again. We think he's going to die tonight. And so you did so well up to this point, didn't I?
It's okay. Take your time. Take your time.
And so we just spent, I don't even know, hours and hours talking to him, kind of singing to him. And we all had our time with him separately. So I was going to say annoying, much more than annoying, but it was, he wasn't conscious during that time. And so we didn't have that final conversation, which I find really fucking unfair, given the fact that,
well, you kind of lost out on both fronts, right? You know, you didn't get to say goodbye, and you had to watch him suffer.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, and I realise that I'm sort of dragging a lot out of you, and I am just going to ask the question that everybody always asks: is the children? You know, how did you explain that, because they were so young?
Well, Leo obviously didn't have to, because he was 5 months old. So that's
same as Tabby.
And Elodie, I agonised about it for, I think, a couple of days. And I ended up having a call actually with the emotional support team at the Marsden. And I was like, I need to do this. But she's 2.5. She's not going to understand. And like now, my son is now 2.5. And I'm like, you definitely still wouldn't understand.
No. I look at Tabby now because she's 7 and my eldest was 7. And I'm like, how did I drop that bomb on you at 7?
It's hideous, isn't it? And so I agonised about it. I had this conversation and I was told to be very kind of direct and use the actual words.
Yeah. None of this got passed away, gone to sleep.
Exactly.
No.
And so I was very honest. I mean, she wasn't even paying attention a lot of the conversation. And I basically just said, you know, Daddy was very poorly and he went to hospital. He was still very poorly, and the doctors and nurses did everything they could to make him better, but sadly they couldn't. And so Daddy's died, which means he's not going to come home again.
Oh, you're setting me off over here. It's
horrible, but it was. I almost practiced it. I practiced it like in phases. Like, these are the lines I need to get across. And in hindsight, it was almost quite laughable that I did that, because she didn't take it in. She really didn't.
But you feel like you have to do it, don't you? You feel like you have to sit them down.
Behind me directly after I said Daddy died. And I was like,
could you just focus?
I was like,
1 second.
Yeah. My kids went and played Harry Potter immediately after, the boys. I came downstairs, they're in full cloaks with a wand, and I was like, are you fucking psychopaths?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously you're talking about 2.5-year-old, but children of any age, they really can't process it.
No.
And I'm guessing that you, much like I have with my youngest, who's got no real memories, lots of photos and lots of talking about Dad and things like that.
Yeah, I worry that I don't do it enough, to be honest. But I don't like feeling like I'm ramming it down.
No, I'm with you on that. Forced grief is not good for them either.
Yeah, exactly. And like they've seen me upset, obviously. I do normally schedule my grief for the evenings when they're asleep. It's just kind of the way it happens now. But they've seen me upset. Elodie, so the eldest, who's now 4, she's very she's quite empathetic, and she's like, why are you crying? Are you crying because Daddy died? Are you sad? Do you miss him? That kind of thing. Yeah. And then she'll give me a cuddle, and it's very cute. I mean, it makes me cry more.
Oh, of course.
I wonder at what point, now I've not actually ever asked you this, at what point will you tell your kids how we know each other? Because I'm very much part of your life, and I know your kids very, very well, but they just think we're friends.
Probably not until they're like, I don't know, 10 or something.
But how nuts is that they when they're 10, they're going to be like, so this lady just randomly appeared into your life?
Yeah.
Well, my son once said to me, have you got any friends that aren't widowed? I was like, thanks, mate. Yeah, I've got a few. But you do, you congregate to the people that, yeah. And like Lou, she lives in Suffolk, I live in Kent, and she'd turn up with a bottle of vodka and her kid, and, you know, we'd sit and put the world to rights. And those were... they were special. They were really special to me, because I'd met my sort of soul sister that I was going to go through the fires of hell with.
Yeah.
And you what you two have is really, really special. I can see it from here.
Yeah, it's just I didn't feel alone.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I didn't feel alone anymore. And I remember
crazy.
Well, I don't know about that.
But if somebody else is equally crazy, it sort of makes you feel a little bit less. And somebody that you can say the stuff that, you know, your non-widowed friends would look at you with horror about. You know, my parents don't listen anymore, so I can probably get away with this. But, you know, the first time I had sex with somebody, and, you know, some of my friends were absolutely like, it was almost like matronly about it. They were like, already? And I was just thought, well, it's a very different thing, you know.
The two are like, oh shit, sorry, how long was it supposed to?
Yeah, how long should I have waited? When would it have been convenient for you? It is
4 years, according to the new Bridget
Jones.
Oh yeah. Have you seen it yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
When did you see it?
We saw it on Thursday. We did like we interviewed. Well, our friend interviewed us before and after we saw it.
I don't think I saw that because I dragged my friend with me and I was like, right, you're my videographer. So she got some videos of me walking in and
that's
and
exactly what we did.
Yeah. And then I just did like a little bit of a review because I actually, in fact, I talked about it, but I thought it was really well done. Did you?
Really.
Yeah.
I raved about it to everyone. I it's one of the 4.
I was really surprised because I was on the way there and I said to my friend, I was like, oh, I'm going to hate this, aren't I? I'm just going to sit there rolling my eyes and go, well, it's not like that. Yeah. And actually, I mean, there was a couple of moments, but you're talking about an hour and a half film. You can't, you know, interject all the grief. But I thought the letter that she wrote him, that just tipped me over the edge.
The balloon.
And like the people wanting to have, you know, authority over you and give you advice and conflicting advice. I thought it was one of the best representations of widowhood I've seen.
Yeah, same. It was definitely a bit romanticized in some ways.
Yeah, of course. I've never fallen out of a tree into a 28. How was he, 28 or something?
Those men are just so hot.
Yeah.
Like, so good. Was there
for the freshly widowed, be warned, that's not always the reality.
Was there a collective gasp in your cinema when he jumped into the pool?
Yes, there was. Yes. Yeah, it was wonderful. So I thought it's absolutely brilliant.
I loved the fact that 3 widows went to the cinema together and watched that film together. And I don't think I'll forget that, actually. Like, it summed up everything we've created and we've worked hard for, because it takes fucking guts to put yourself out there and be vulnerable and meet new people. Yeah. And we've done that, and we've met a lot of people, and we're better for it.
Yeah, I agree. I actually tried valiantly to crash the Way trip because there was a Kent group that were going, but I think I scared them by saying I wanted to film. So I think I kind of shot myself in the foot a bit. I should have just gone up with old school with a pad and paper, really. In fact, in the cinema, I fished out, I had one piece of like photo paper in my bag for no reason and a dodgy bar, and I was trying to make notes in the dark so I didn't forget things.
You know what? That would have been quite useful because there's a few things now where I'm like, I don't know if I was a bit pissed for a start because I had wine. I feel like I've forgotten like some quite poignant points. Like if someone mentions it to me, I'm just gonna be like, yeah. And I'm thinking, what was that?
We should do like a widow's watch, or when it comes onto TV, we should like all schedule to watch it.
That's a great idea.
It's such a good idea.
We're down for that.
So, ladies, what's next for you? What do you? Because you've just finished your season 1, haven't you? You've got season 2 coming.
Season 2. So, I mean, to be completely honest, right now, time is a massive problem. We've both just suddenly become ridiculously busy. Like, I don't see her anywhere near as much as we did.
No. I don't like it.
I don't like it.
I think because we're just past the 2-year point.
Yeah.
And it's at that point, I think, where we're meant to just be getting on now.
Yeah.
Life is reflecting that. Yeah. And sometimes I want to stop and be like, hello.
I want to go back to like 6 months in when we got to spend all our lives together.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, it's only been 2 years. Why does the world think that I can just slot back in and do everything I used to do? I can't.
I kid you not, I took my middle son on holiday for a couple of days because he got very poorly at Christmas. I'm justifying a little mini break here.
Never justify mini breaks.
On the way back, it was dark on the aeroplane and he was watching Harry Potter and I had headphones in and one of mine and Ben's songs came on. And I cried the whole flight home. like just silently, and every time I thought I'd stopped, they started. And I had this thought, I thought, well, you're a fraud, Rosie Gilmoss. You're out there telling people, you know, you can get through this, the grief will get better. And here you are, sat on a plane crying. And I didn't expect to be there at 7 years.
Yeah.
I believe that my grief would have softened or eased or lessened somewhat. And again, it's another cliche, but your life grows around it. And sometimes it just comes out, doesn't it? Yeah. And I fully anticipate that I will be both happy and sad for the rest of my life. And I think coming to terms with that is part of the healing.
But what's I find really interesting what you just said is, if I'd heard that a year ago, that would have terrified me.
The thought of being sad forever?
Yes.
Or being happy?
The thought of basically 7 years on, it's still making you sad. You're still crying on a flight home. But now I feel like it is just part of us now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm the same.
I wouldn't want it any other way.
Then it would feel like you've forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That my life wasn't impacted by this guy.
Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. For 13 years.
Yeah. That's it. We wouldn't be human if we weren't still grieving. You can't you can't just whitewash them. And you know, I have 3 kids who all look like him. The boy, I mean, Jesus, my eldest wears his clothes, which is incredibly disconcerting when they get to an age where they're big enough to wear their father's clothes. But I keep saying really cliche, trite phrases, but they are living on in them, and that's kind of what I focus on. Yeah. But it's Ben was everything to me, and to think that I could forget him and not be sad by the fact he's gone is just that's impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, ladies, I hope that we'll stay in touch, because I really enjoyed that. And if you want to return the favour, you can grill me. I probably told you everything already on this one, but for those of you listening out there, the podcast is called Those Two Widows, and your Instagram is the same, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. At Those Two Widows.
One of the things I heard in one of your episodes was you said, that you're really bad at social media. And I was like, oh my God, me too. Like, what am I doing wrong?
It's awful,
see people putting on like...
She single-handedly does it these days.
I think yours looks great, but we've tried everything. We've tried spamming it with clips of the podcast. We've tried, once I create this beautiful video, it got like 12 likes. And you just think, oh, I haven't got time for this shit.
I just think Instagram just does not help the little people.
No, I think you're right. Yeah. And at the moment I don't know whether it'll work. We're trying just spamming TikTok with clips and seeing if that picks up some traction. But if I find the cure, the magic panacea for it, I'll let you know.
Well, we don't need to take over the world.
It's fine. I think the thing is,
some people listen.
Yeah, our aim in our podcast was to help others. Yep. We've already achieved that. So if we do more, that's great, but actually we've already set out to achieve what we wanted to achieve.
And this is it. And I always feel that it happened very organically. I've done no paid promotion on it. It just happened. It grew. And that I've really enjoyed that. Whereas if I'm having to pretend to be something I'm not and make, I don't mind doing a bit of social media, but if I'm having to make these very contrived videos all the time, well, that's not who I am. So what am I trying to do? I think that kind of authenticity does show through.
Yeah, exactly. And like with us, it was also like, we didn't want to do like sad posts. I know that sounds silly because of what we're talking about, but we've got a ridiculous reel of us doing the handshake from The Parent Trap, because that was fun to do, and so we enjoyed doing it, so we were going to do it.
I think,
and it also shows us there is joy and fun to be had, and that's something that because I really thought, particularly with the name of the podcast and the slightly sort of dark humoured take on, I thought we'd get widows about your point 3, maybe 2 years in.
Yeah.
But actually, what I'm finding is people who are very freshly widowed are messaging and saying, how much hope they're getting from it. And like you, I get no financial reward for this. It's a labour of love, but I do it because I love it, and I do it because when I'm at the point of thinking, the imposter's getting to me, or somebody will message and say that, it has given them some hope, or it's made them feel less alone. And then you just think, oh my God, if this is something that can come out of the worst thing that's ever happened to me, if I can shine a little bit of light into somebody else's life, then fuck it, I'll sit in front of a microphone.
Exactly.
That's
and all the embarrassment kind of gets forgotten at that point, because you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Our conversation is helping a person.
And people are listening, aren't they?
It's amazing.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is we said as soon as it stops helping us and benefiting
you stop.
In some way, then we're stopping it. Because actually this shouldn't be a hindrance. It should remain that labour of love.
And I would caution you on that as well, because I went hell for leather the first year. I was putting out 2 episodes a week. I was
how you did that.
I'm perimenopause as well. Add that into the mix. And it just became so much. And I was having panic attack. And so this year I've scaled it back to, I'm meant to record every week and put one out every other. I'm figuring out what works for me, because you're going back into your own grief. You're talking to other people about their grief. It does, and it can, take you back a bit. But yeah, I I think the other thing I was obsessed with, people will notice if I don't put out 2 a week. Nobody gives a shit. As long as you're putting out some episodes. But anyway, we will together figure this out as we go, I imagine. Much like widowhood, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's honestly, I think the nicest thing about setting up those 2 widows is finding these like-minded individuals through our social media platform, like yourself, like so many others, who are just all out there going, look, we're all trying and we're trying to live, and ultimately that's all we're trying to do.
Yeah, and it's that choice, isn't it? Because when your person dies, you can either metaphorically, I hope, die with them and give up, or you get up, keep putting your feet on the floor, and see what's coming up the road next. Hopefully nothing too drastic. I live in hope. I just want peace. I just want some peace.
I remember quite early on, after we met, you were like, you better not die on me now.
Oh my God. I say that to her all the time, like, don't you fucking dare.
Yeah, I know. And this idea that people will just die it's horrible, isn't it? I'm obsessed with people dying.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, ladies, so much for coming on. It really has been a pleasure to meet you, and I wish you all the best in the world of widow podcasting.
Thank you.
I might try and go to the podcast show this year. I went year before last as a real newbie, and it was really kind of intimidating, but it's actually it's really interesting to go and have a little nose and see what people are doing. So I'll let you know. But anyway, I digress again.
You see, I'm even jealous of your mic situation.
I know, but you know, I got all this set up, and now everybody's doing it on the bloody sofa, aren't they? And now I'm in my front room going, ooh. Anyway, take care, both of you. And for anybody who is listening out there who's got any questions, if you want to ask Katie or Natalie anything, or me, please do let us know. You know the drill. Give us a like and subscribe. Help us get these stories out there. But once again, take care, everybody. Lots of love and goodbye. Thank you for listening. If you found this episode helpful, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you think someone else may benefit from this, please do share. We'd also really appreciate a quick review. It helps more people find the show. Thank you again, and see you next time on Widowed AF.